Hey everybody, this is Tracy with another edition of A View from Tracy's Point, and we're here to recap This Is Us, Season 1, Episode 15, which was titled Jack Pearson's Son. So this episode is centered around Valentine's Day, probably when the kids were in their teen years and right before Jack passed away. So Rebecca is preparing for her road trip, and she's making a list for Jack on all the things that would need to be done while she's gone and what all the kids need. And he lets her know that he's excited about her performance that night because it's actually Valentine's Day, and that he'll take her to dinner afterwards. So they have like a tradition where they go to this restaurant called O'Shaney's, and then they order some kind of hamburger or something that they both really like. So now we're into the future, and remember when the episode ended last week, Kate was getting ready to go over to Duke's cabin. So she arrives at the cabin, and thank God it wasn't because she was falling for his bull crap and about to have sex with him. Instead, she goes over there to tell him off and tell him that he's self-centered, and that if he didn't have that job, working with the horses, he wouldn't, be coming on to women, and that he uses that, uses his job at the camp to seduce women when they're vulnerable. And lo and behold, she learns that he's actually the son of the owners. And before, telling her to leave his cabin, he lets her know that her time is up there. We move on to Kevin, and he's doing an interview with Katie Couric. The interview goes south, and Katie Couric accuses him of sleeping with the actress, and then she tells him, after you slept with the main actress, you then slept with the playwright who's now, stepping in as the replacement actress, and then you also are using your own money to produce this show, so how do you call yourself a real actor? And then she tells him, the interview's over, and she has to go play tennis with somebody else. As Katie Couric is walking off the set, Kevin's phone rings, and it is Sophie, and we realize that this is actually a recurring dream that he has whenever he is nervous. And so they talk about that, and then she asks him, so who did she have to go play tennis with this time? And then he gives the name of some guy. And then the reason that Sophie is actually calling is to let him know that she wasn't able to find anyone to cover her shift, and therefore she won't be able to make it to the play, but she wishes him much success. Randall is out running, and he's, having all these memories running through his mind of all the things that have happened, with William, with Beth, with, the family. Everything is just flashing in his mind as he's running. And then he goes over to a wall and he sits down, and then we realize that Kevin was actually out running with him. And so Kevin comes over and asks him if everything is okay, and he says that it is, but he needs to get to work. So he goes home, and then we have a scene where he's in the shower, and then he's having those uncontrollable shakes again. Then he moves downstairs, and he's in the kitchen, and Beth walks up, and she tells him that he's missed a button, and so his shirt is, he's ready for work, but his shirt is misbuttoned. And so, he's just like a wreck at this point. Then Beth gets a phone call from her sister Lisa, and Lisa is letting her know that their mom has fallen and that she broke her hip. And so Beth, lets Randall know that she has to go to DC to see about her mom. And in the midst of all the confusion, with Beth getting the phone call and the girls arguing back and forth at the table about something, William goes over to the sink to put his cereal bowl in the sink, and then he stumbles. And then, of course, that freaks Randall out again. William says that, he can go and stay with Jesse until Beth returns, but Randall says no, he doesn't want him to do that, and that he will call a nursing service to come and take care of him. Then we move into the past, and Miguel walks in as Jack is making reservations for him and Rebecca for later that night. And when Jack hangs up the phone, he unleashes about how he really feels about Rebecca, going on this tour, you know, and he's really not happy about it. And so Miguel is there, you know, he doesn't want to hear about Jack's insecurities. He has come in to tell Jack that he found out about this new club, and while Rebecca is gone, he wants him and Jack to go check out the club because he's ready to start dating again. But then Jack suggests that he comes out to the club to hear Rebecca sing with him later on that night, and Miguel agrees. So Kate shows up at Toby's hotel room, and she lets him know that she was kicked out of the camp because, you know, Duke was the owner, well, the son of the owners. So Toby is semi-happy about the news. He hates that Kate was kicked out of the camp, but then he lets her know that he was kind of feeling insecure about Duke and thinking that Duke might steal her away. Then Kate lets him know that Duke is not her type, and then Toby gets to thinking, like, I really don't know you that well because I don't even know what your type is. So he kind of comes to terms with the fact that they really don't know that much about each other, and maybe they should slow things down a bit and get to know each other a little better. Then Toby says that he needs to go shopping because he needs something to wear to Kevin's opening night performance. And so they head out to the store, but before they go to the store, they decide that, you know, any question that the other wants to ask, you know, they're going to answer the questions. So Kevin is preparing for his opening night, and Sloane comes in, you know, to tell him good luck and break a leg. And she also lets him know that the New York Times will be in the audience to review the play, and this kind of makes Kevin really nervous. So then we go over to the store where Kate and Toby are shopping, and it's sort of like they're playing 21 questions, and it's all fun and games, you know, as they're answering each other questions. But then Kate brings up the fact that Toby had told her that after his breakup with his first wife that he had attempted suicide, and so she wanted to know more about that. So after Kate and Toby finish shopping, they go to a restaurant and they're sitting down talking, and you can tell that the conversation is getting a little more serious. And then after Toby explains to her that he really didn't try to commit suicide, what he actually did was he was thinking about it really hard, and the more he thought about it, the more he was trying to come up with a way that he would commit suicide. And I think he said he was drinking, and then he started wondering if he had enough pills in the medicine cabinet to just, you know, take himself out. But then he realized that he really didn't want to die, and so he started working on himself and working on his self-esteem, you know, to do better and be a better person and attract, you know, the woman that was really meant for him into his life. And so then he asked Kate, you know, about her father, and he wants to know how did Jack die. And so then Kate kind of closes up and she doesn't want to talk about it. And she, you know, you can tell that she's debating on whether she should tell Toby or not. But then she finally says that even though Jack died a really long time ago, it's really a hard thing for her to talk about, and she's not ready. So then Toby says that, you know, the woman that he marries, he wants to, for them to be able to tell each other everything. And because Kate can't tell him about Jack, he thinks that they should postpone their wedding and, you know, really get to know each other better, really be able to open up to each other, and then they can plan the wedding that they really want and not, you know, try to rush into things. So then we have Randall, and he arrives to work, and his manager stops him to let him know that a conference call that they had scheduled for the next day is actually going to take place later that afternoon. And so, you know, Randall's kind of looking concerned, and then his boss is like, well, I can have Sanjay do the conference call. But then, you know, Randall, of course, is like, no, I got it, I'll take care of it. So as they're standing there talking, Kevin shows up, you know, because he needs moral support and boosting up for the opening night of the play. And for some reason, Kate is not answering any of his phone calls because earlier, you know, he kept trying to call her and it kept going to voicemail. So while Kevin and Randall are sitting down talking, Randall puts his the earphones, you know, they have that thing that goes over your head and the mouthpiece comes out. He puts that on, but then when his secretary tells him that he has a call and he tells her to transfer the call, he's just shuffling through the desk, you know, trying to find the headset, I think is what they call it. And so then Kevin's like, it's on your head. So Kevin's kind of noticing that something's not right with Randall. So Randall gets on the phone, and it is the nurse that he's hired to take care of William, and she's calling to let him know that William fired her and locked her out of the house, and she doesn't know what to do. So then, of course, Randall, you know, runs out to go see, you know, what's going on and to put out the fire, and he is just a mess, and I don't know how this is going to end for Randall. So in a flashback scene, we have Kate accidentally revealing that Kevin is having sex with Sophie. And remember, they're just teenagers. And so Rebecca was hiding in the hallway, kind of listening in on, what the kids were doing when they come into the house. And when she hears that, Kevin is having sex, of course she freaks out. So when Jack gets home, they have the sex talk with Kevin, basically telling him, to use a condom and, whatever it is that you tell your child when you find out that they're like 15 years old and having sex. So while they're talking, Randall comes in and he's upset about some paper he's written. And I can't remember if he turned the paper in and got a bad grade, or if he was reading over the paper and realized that it wasn't good enough to turn in. So immediately Jack gets up to go see about Randall and to comfort him and reassure him that everything is okay. And in the midst of it all, they've forgotten about Kevin. And remember, Kevin has grown up with these issues that he's always the forgotten child. So you can just see him sitting in the corner looking mad that, once again, the focus has been taken off of him. So as all of this is going on, Rebecca starts to panic and wonder, if it's a good idea for her to even go on the trip, and if Jack will be okay taking care of all the kids while she's gone. So we get back in the present, and Randall arrives home, and William says that all he wanted was a Coca-Cola, and the nurse wouldn't give him the Coca-Cola, and that's why she fired him. So Randall begs him to let the nurse take care of him and that everything's going to be okay. And so then William begins to show signs, that he's now accepting the fact that he's about to die. And he's telling Randall, how he doesn't feel good, how he's constantly cold, can't get his body temperature together. And so I think he's starting to panic. So because he's panicking, then that's making Randall panic more. So Randall shares with William that he really has to get back to work because he has this meeting, and to just let the nurse do her job. And so as he's walking out, he tells the nurse if he wants a Coke, just give him a Coke, whatever to make him happy. So as Randall gets out of eyesight of William and the nurse, you can tell that he's starting to cry. And then every time Randall cries, I want to cry because it's just so sad. So then we have another flashback scene, and Jack and Miguel are at Rebecca's show. And so Miguel has set his sights on this lady that's at the club on the other side of the room. And so he's, asking Jack, what should he do? Should he go talk to the lady? But Jack has focused his attention on the fact that while Rebecca is singing, it's like she's not singing to the audience. She's singing to a guy that's in the band with her. And so Miguel is trying to tell him that, they're just playing to the audience and acting, to make the song, mean more and seem more passionate, and that Jack is overreacting. But Jack is like, no, I know my wife and I'm not overreacting. So after the set, Jack is talking to the guy that Rebecca, was making goo-goo eyes at. And the guy lets Jack know that him and Rebecca used to date a long time ago. So, of course, Jack is in panic mode. He's jealous. And when Rebecca walks up, he lets her know that he doesn't want to go out to dinner. He's not hungry anymore. And Rebecca's trying to figure out what's going on. And he's like, let's just go home. So when they get home, Rebecca, is still trying to figure out what's wrong with him. And then he finally tells her that he's upset that she kept it a secret that him and the guy Ben, that her and the guy Ben, who's in the band, used to be boyfriend and girlfriend. But Rebecca says, no, we dated for like 2 months. But of course, in Jack's mind, she had kept that from him, and because she knew that if she had said that she used to date this guy, that he never would have let her be in the band. So the two of them get to arguing, and of course when you're arguing and in the heat of passion, you say things that you really didn't mean, or they come out the way that you didn't mean for them to come out, and that's what happened with Jack and Rebecca. So then Jack says that he has to go out for a ride, and then he leaves the house. So we go back to the present, and after leaving Randall's office, Kevin goes to see his mom, but Miguel answers the door and lets him know that Rebecca isn't home. And so he invites Kevin in, and Kevin lets him know that he has pre-show jitters and that he needs to talk to someone that has like a really creative mindset. So while they're talking, I swear Kevin said that he had been replaced as the Manny by the actor Morris Chestnut. So I thought that was funny because I'm trying to picture Morris Chestnut as the Manny, and then he tells Miguel like, well, maybe I could go back and then there could be two Mannies, but I don't think that that would work out. So Miguel tells him that when his world was spinning out of control, he always went to Jack, and talking about how Jack was his best friend. So Miguel tells Kevin that he really reminds him a lot of Jack, and that's why it hurts him so much that Kevin doesn't like him. And he says that when Kevin is in the room, he feels like he still has a part of Jack left, and that's why he likes being around Kevin. So that kind of like make Kevin think, and then Kevin tells him, well, it's not exactly that I don't like you, meaning that I'm just a little upset that you married my mom after my dad passed away. So after they have that tender moment, Miguel tells Kevin that when he's on the stage and feeling nervous, just ask himself, what would Jack do? And so that seemed to work for Kevin. Then we move on to Randall, and he arrives late for the meeting that he was supposed to have, and he's really disheveled and not, kind of focused on what's going on. And so Sanjay, has to take over for him, and because Randall literally cannot read the report that he has. And then back at his desk, it's later that night, and he looks up at the clock and realizes that it's 8 o'clock, and he's going to miss Kevin's play. So he calls Kevin to let him know that he's not going to be able to make it. And Kevin senses that something is wrong, but Randall, he's kind of like babbling on, and he ends up hanging up the phone. So out in the audience, we have, the whole family is there, and Rebecca's asking, where's Randall? And then Kate says that she doesn't know where Randall is, and she's not sure if he's going to show up. And then backstage, we have Sloan and Kevin, and they're talking, and Kevin's still thinking about, what was going on with Randall. And so the lights are about to go out, and then Sloan says something. I can't remember what it was, but then he says that he's wondering what his dad would do in that moment. So Sloan goes out on the stage, and then when the lights come on, she recites her line. And when she turns around to face Kevin, Kevin isn't on the stage. And so the audience can't tell like if Kevin was supposed to be there or not. But of course, by the look on Sloan's face, it's like, where the hell is Kevin? So then the scene goes to Kevin, and he's running down the street really fast away from the theater. And he has a flashback in his mind of the night when Randall was really upset about the paper he had written. And Kevin went upstairs and went into his room, and Randall was sitting in the dark, and he's just like boo-hoo crying. But instead of saying anything, Kevin just went out of the room and closed the door. So then when he's back in the present, he's running into the building where Randall works, and he runs up to Randall's office, and she finds him like sitting on the floor in the corner of his office, and he's like bawling again. And so Kevin goes, I'm getting emotional. So Kevin goes and sits down next to him, and he starts, and he pulls him into his arms, and, it's just like holding him and rocking him. And I'm just like, oh my God. The show ends with Jack, and he's at the restaurant that him and Rebecca had reservations for. And the waiter comes, and he brings him the hamburger, and then he also brings him a drink. So we know that at some point, Jack started back drinking again, and because it is an alcoholic beverage. And I'm like, once again, like in awe, at this show. It was so emotional. And I'm kind of like, oh my God, I just feel so sorry for Randall. I just don't know. Well, that's it for me, guys. Let me know what you thought about the show. Rate the video. Leave whatever comments you have, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. And until the next time, take care. Bye-bye.